Good morning, students. Welcome to week 2 of Unit 1. Today, I'm going to provide you with a short video that will help you to analyze how literary devices work in poems. This first slide that you're looking at deals with the first poem that we did last week, Oh, What Is That Sound? And most of it, you will find that we've covered. We said the poem is lyrical, and that means it has musical qualities. We said you should consider the structure, the rhymes, and the rhythm of the stanzas. We said it is a modern lyrical ballad. We also identified it as a dramatic poem. So, identify the two voices, the two characters, and their characteristics. Remember to look for elements of contrast. Try to understand how imagery and symbolism work. And so this first slide captures information that is relevant for the study of, oh, what is that sound? But this week I want to broaden your horizons. So there is a video on YouTube I've placed in Moodle that's going to help you. And for the next 8 or so minutes, I'm going to give attention to how you discuss the work of literary devices in poems. And maybe the first poem again. And last week we provided a thesis statement, and you should have been trying out your thesis statements. So if I hold on to the one I had last week, it went something like this. There is a duplicity that is being addressed in W.H. Auden's poem, Oh, What Is That Sound? And notice that's the first sentence, and it opens up the whole space now for us to write paragraphs about duplicity presented in the poem. I am specifically emphasizing the phrase duplicity presented in the poem because you will have to come up with one like that. And you will have to furnish your own thesis statement. If you find you're hanging on to my thesis statement, you're not really going to get A's. So maybe the thing to do is go look for a thesaurus and find similar ways of saying the same thing. And that's language at work. That's why you're studying a degree in English. So, how do these devices work to deliver duplicity? And first, we could look at the question and response pattern. In the poem, there's a question and response pattern. So, the question is there in the first 2 lines of every stanza. And it's followed by an answer in the second 2 lines. And so we had said that there is an alternating going on. And that alternating points to contradictions in the poem. So I've used another technical term that you'll need to get familiar with, contradictions in the poem. If you have a glossary of literary terms, if you found one on the internet, it will help you. If you haven't found one, you need to do so now. And so the contradiction is there with a female asking the question and the male giving a very nonchalant response. Notice what I've done. Nonchalant describes response. So if you write and say to me, he gives a response, you're not saying anything. But if you could work with language and tell me what kind of a response, and it's validated by what the poem says, you're safe. Or what is that light I see flashing so clear? And so the questions continue for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, 7 stanzas. And then there's a twist in the 8th stanza. Now this twist, it's often called a volta. Another term for you to look up. Volta meaning a twist, a change in the circumstances, a change in the position. And here you need to tell us. So maybe you could say the poem indicates that there's so much trust with the female. She depends heavily on him and his responses, and maybe she's gullible. Notice what I've said, maybe. And so nobody could take away marks from me. So if she's led on for 6 stanzas, and then in the 7th one, he drops the bombshell. Because he's now going to be leaving her. Where are you going? Stay with me here. And she's so desperate, she appeals to those vows that they had said before, they had held before. But of course, the poem revels in deception, and sorry to say, it's male deception, and there is a female. But work with the question and answer, and you're going to get sturdy paragraphs developing. Also, you could work with imagery. So go back to your thesis, and maybe this is another paragraph. Duplicity is delivered in the poem with the use of imagery. As simple as that, you have a topic sentence. And now you begin to discuss how duplicity is presented with imagery. There are soldiers, there are weapons, there are very vivid images that appeal to sight. And nevertheless, although these images seem to be telling a particular story about destruction and impeding death and tragic circumstances, notice the female persona. She just deflects attention from those images, and she rather comforts herself in believing that the man, what he says is true, and he's going to take care of her. And maybe this is an ironic twist on something called chivalry. I think that's the word, and there may be other words to describe it, where there is some man in shining armor, and the female expects that he is going to protect her, and he is going to save her. Of course, the poem ends with a tragic circumstance. The vivid imagery only becomes more horrible with a broken lock, a splintered door, their boots on the heavy floor, and their eyes that are burning. And so you get the impression from this poem that the woman has become victim of circumstance. And so I've given you a nice discussion there. And if it's written, you're going to get beautiful paragraphs. Metaphors, you need to go through the poem and see what are the metaphors. And so no, I'm not going to do metaphors for you. I'm going to leave it for you to do for yourself. So after this, I'll go to the next poem.